Welcome to MalcolmPresents.com and its new show, actually not a new show, it's a unique show, Tush Twins, but this time we only have one cheek.
That's right. The
Hey,
other
Max.
cheek, yeah, the other cheek is the other chica is has a COVID, and we wish her all speedy recovery.
Yeah,
She's getting a bit better, but still not there. She can't, her voice is really hoarse, so she can't come on. She's dealing with
we
some
wish you all a
symptoms.
speedy recovery, but this is like a fourth bout of COVID?
I think it's like, I think it could be the third.
Wow.
I know it's the second at least. It could be the third. Don't quote me. I don't know. You just don't know. Apparently someone went to the policeman's ball, and then that person kind of gave it to her.
But isn't she supposed to have like immunity or something? Isn't that what our vaccinations are for?
One would think having had it before, and then also having the vaccinations, but maybe there's something we don't know about.
The variants.
You and I are trying to stay clear of this. I'm hoping that I was away abroad, so I'm gonna test tomorrow.
You've been abroad for many years.
I've been abroad for many years, and my son studies he studied in Florence, and he said it was the study abroad program. How many broads did you study? That was
That's
that was the inside joke.
yeah.
Take a letter to Hunga Dunga
Yeah,
and McCormick.
right, you need this. Well, I like one time Groucho goes to the hotel, and Harpo is not Harpo. Chico is the manager of the hotel, and he said, I have a room on the third floor. I have a suite on the third floor. And he said, how about a Pollock in the basement? Anyway,
Oh, that's bad.
you know me. Anyway,
I know you. Any crazy joke from you'll find it. But anyway, so yeah, it's the Tush twins, and you're the third Tush today. So we're gonna kind of hit on a couple of things.
what did you want to tell us about you want to head off with your experience in
Yeah,
Scotland? Or would you?
I don't know. I went to Scotland. Or which one do you want me to start? Button Hook or
Or your
Scotland?
or you want to get your frustration this out with your
I don't want to overdo that, because we're in the middle of trying to get sway the opinions of those in who are conducting the sale of the property, or keeping the property, or I don't know. We're trying to just, there's nothing I can say other than I was very frustrated at this meeting. People poured their hearts out. They gave information that certainly the people on that board should be listening to.
do you want to give a little background in case some of our folks don't understand?
Yeah, well, there's a 20.3 acre forest in the town of Newcastle, New York. And it's a carbon sink. It has almost 900 mature trees, wildlife habitat, a watershed area, and it is beautiful. And on that property are Native American sacred ceremonial stones. And that wasn't found out until like last year. So a group of people in the town decided we would like to do our best to save this and stop it from being bulldozed. So with that has been just a long running various, times when we needed to try to get the attention of those in charge. And we formed a nonprofit, and through that we put in a bid to buy the property along with a Native American separate group. And there was a meeting last night because we were trying to find out if they accepted our bid. And of course, the answer was there was no answer.
Even though you were the only bid.
We were the only bid. And there were people who came, Native Americans came from far and wide to talk about how they feel about this property, because the the Native American sacred stones would be equivalent to a church, a synagogue, a mosque. So just thinking that they would come in and bulldoze that is beyond beyond what you can comprehend.
Well, the background, this land is owned by the Board of Education of,
Yeah, it is. But
and they want to sell it.
want to hit the slippery slope today, because we're trying to figure out what our next maneuver is, and I don't want to just go. So
That's right. I know
I
your
think I'm going to stop talking about it. So I don't, because then I'll get off on a tangent.
Okay, just give yourself a little less headroom because you're,
A little less headroom.
yeah, that's better.
Better.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna cut it off there. I
Okay.
think because I don't want to no.
it's
we
not, it's in the Indian term, it's known as ruffling feathers.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything. We're trying to figure out what the best next move is, and I don't want to say something that's gonna bite me in the tush.
Well, I hate to say it, as I've been involved with this, process for a long time. I think you have to start playing hardball.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I don't
aware.
think being nice and being
I
gratuitous and
I
soft-soaping ain't
yeah,
working.
I agree, and I think I have put that out there numerous times. We have to see what the next steps are. So
Anyway,
I'm going to shut up about it now, but if anyone wants to help save a forest, we have a Facebook page, Friends of Buttonhook Forest, and you can go to savebuttonhook.org and you can get information about what we're up to. So anybody out there, help us save a forest. It's a beautiful place. It's just a beautiful place. That's all.
We need all the forests we could have.
Right, and especially during a climate crisis when we have a carbon sink right here that's giving back carbon. So
Okay,
I guess
define carbon sink for those of us that are uneducated.
Well, it actually takes carbon. It doesn't release. It absorbs like bad carbon. So it's a the trees absorb carbon, and there's a lot of bad carbon emissions out there. So when you have something that refreshes the area, which has 900 mature trees, you need to keep that in your you need to keep that. It keeps the air better. It keeps people can breathe better, and so there's a lot that's possible to do.
As I learned in biology 101, is that humans breathe in oxygen and release carbon as a waste. Trees breathe in carbon dioxide and release oxygen as a waste.
Right. I mean,
so we're interdependent.
Trees are our friends in many ways. Not only the leaves, but also the roots. What's underground is as equally important. The mycelium, the fungi, that people are just really starting to. The scientists are starting to get that word out. So it's very, very important that we try to keep these areas and get people to understand how important it is during a climate crisis. I'll give you the exact definition of a carbon sink as I'll read it. A carbon sink is anything natural or otherwise that accumulates and stores some carbon containing chemical compound for an indefinite period and thereby removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And one of them is a forest area. So it's very important.
And the beat goes on. Well, keep us informed of what's happening.
We'll
back with Paula.
We'll keep you going.
As I said, keep us up to speed.
I'll keep you up to speed.
Now, tell us about your Scottish experience.
My Scottish experience. Well, I'm going to start off first with not all the insane things that happened, because a lot of insane things happened. But one of the things we did was we went on the tour of the Scottish Highlands, and we had it's beautiful. The mountain areas, Caledonian Mountains, the Loch Ness locks, or the lochs or loch are the rivers and the water bodies
You give me a
We
bottle of scotch, by the way, that I ordered.
um we didn't go into the duty-free shop, but we did whiskey. We did the whiskey experience, which it's like they call it Malt Disney because
Well,
it takes you on a keg. It's like a keg, and you go into it, and it's like a ride in Disney, and it goes through a thing about how scotch is made, and they have this sort of not only animatronic, but like a holograph almost, and the guy is speaking about whiskey and the process and all of that. And then you get out and there's a beautiful like 180-degree screen. Like in Disney, they have the screen, of the movies, and they showed a short film about the whiskey and the areas in Scotland where certain whiskeys are made. Then you go to the tasting room and you go into this room that has the largest amount of scotch bottles in the world. I mean,
I thought that was my bar.
yeah, no, Malcolm, no way, no chance. This and the oldest bottles of scotch in the world. And if you go in there, and then you can taste different scotches. And I was a lightweight. I did the silver, which was only kind of one taste. My son did the gold star, which was 4, and we tasted it, and he gave me some tastes of his, and there were different flavors. There are different tastes. There's like a smoky taste. It's called Isla, and then there's the like a Highlands. I forgot it was called. It's a more fruity taste, and it's a lighter flavor. I'm not a scotch drinker. I'm like the worst person you could possibly speak to
There's
about.
also, there's a whole science on it. As a matter of fact, my boys now, for birthdays, anniversaries, or anything, buy us fine scotches.
Mhm. Well,
It's
these
single malt liquor. As a matter of fact, we got 3 bottles the other day because it's our 28th anniversary. So the
Oh.
boys know what to buy. They buy scotch.
Happy anniversary. Right. I
Yeah.
forgot. Happy anniversary. Yeah. I mean, the scotch, hey, Scotland, scotch, that goes together. And so we did that. And we also did a scotch tasting with a storyteller who was very interesting. And it was in this bar that also has a club upstairs that has folk music. And they had singers from all over the world and all their music and posters plastered all over the wall. It was really cool. We had a good time.
Did you
So
understand what they were talking about?
yes,
Sometimes the Scottish brogue is,
one of the tour guys, Scottish, he was harder to understand, but I got most of it for the most part. You got to really listen in because sometimes you can't catch the word. You can't figure it out. But anyway, so we went on this, getting back to the Highlands tour. We went by the Highlands as we were going through to Loch Ness to meet the Loch Ness monster, of course. We didn't find Nessie, as they say. So he was talking about how the geological early history and the collisions that followed during the Caledonian Mountain Formation, and the Pangean Mountains split, and that the split of the Highlands and was connected to the Catskill Mountains.
the Catskill Mountains.
Yes, when he said the Catskill Mountains, I was like, huh? So apparently, if you look at where the Pangea Mountains and how it all, was attached and separated, it was attached to North America and the Catskills. And of course, being from New York, Elon and I were like, wow. So as we're going down the road, he goes, we're heading to the American side. And I'm like, what do you mean the American side? I thought it was like maybe an army. I mean, it had to be, what do you mean American side? And then he goes, well, I just told you before that we were connected to North America and the Catskill Mountains. So they consider it the American side. However, another person on a different tour said their tour guide said it was the Canadian side. So everyone had a different thing. So, but it was really nice.
Anything unusual happen while you were in
A
Scotland?
lot of unusual things happened. First off, we almost didn't get to Edinburgh because our Delta flight was delayed. And because it was delayed, the first flight was pretty much almost canceled, I think, at 2-3 in the morning. But we were able to get a flight through very crazy ways to Paris with a connection to Dublin so that we can then get our flight to Edinburgh. Well, that flight was delayed an hour and 20 minutes. So when we got to Paris, we had 20 minutes to get our flight, and it was a completely different terminal. The gate wasn't even near. It took 20 minutes to get to the terminal, and the gate was at the end of that K terminal, whatever it was. So we missed the flight. And Air France, who was the partner for Delta, they were not very helpful. They said the next flight's 9 o'clock. And we said, we're going to miss our flight then from Dublin to Edinburgh. Too bad, tough tardies, call Delta. Is there an agent for Delta here? No. We were totally screwed. So my son books a separate flight on EasyJet.
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 With that name, I would be a little leery.
No, actually, the best flight we had and the most on time and okay flight was EasyJet. And I understand that the flight is only an hour. You know, it was the flight time was like, it's like taking a shuttle to DC or Boston. That's, you know, the mileage is like 200 miles. So EasyJet was the best experience we had. They were nice. They were easy, except we had to wait in the airport for 6 hours. So we finally get to our destination and we go see the Edinburgh Castle. It was awesome. I stood inside a 1,000-year-old, the oldest building there is a 1,000-year-old church that fits 8 people in the Edinburgh Castle. And you can, for $20,000, book a wedding that will only take 8 people in the chapel there. Yeah. But since it's the oldest,
you have yeah, me and my wife, who else do we need? The best man,
that's right. So if you have 20,000 pounds, you can get married there. But anyway, we saw the cannons, the castle, the gates, the history, the bloody history of the, you know, English versus the Scottish, and they do not like each other. So, but it was really nice to see the castle, and it was one of the days that it didn't rain, so that was good. It rained. We had a couple of days of like torrential rain when we were visiting things, and there were a lot of things to see. We saw as much as we could, you know, but we also were staying in a flat that was 100 yards from St. Giles Cathedral. And little did we know the role that St. Giles Cathedral was going to play in our adventure.
Pray tell us.
Pray tell. Well, okay, so we were gonna go. It's a place to see of interest that's on all the, you know, tourist things. And so we were heading back to the flat, and I go, let's go on that Thursday. Let's go to the church and take a look-see, because it's right here. It's on the way. Let's just go. So that day, you know, we went to look at the church. The stained glass is incredible. The whole, it is just beautiful. There's an organ that is one of the largest church organs I have ever seen. And it was just, it's beautiful. So we saw it, and then we were going to later on, a couple hours later, a tour it's called a ghost tour, the ghost tour of Edinburgh. And that you go to the cemetery, you do all these things. It's like, woo, you know, spooky, because it's supposed to be towards the evening. And as we meet, it's also raining and cold and horrible. So as it's raining and cold and horrible, the tour starts. And as we get towards a few blocks down, someone yells out, "The Queen is dead!" You know, just like a Monty Python. She sounded like a Monty Python. Literally, that was her voice. "The Queen is dead!" Like that. And I went, everyone's looking around like, what? Excuse me? Queen Elizabeth is dead. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now it gets a little nutty. The tour guide, who's Scottish, really didn't, you know, the Queen, he said, we like the Queen, we hate the monarchy. They want to become independent. They've tried it. The referendum didn't pass, but I think with Charles now, I think they're going to try a little harder.
Well, officially, are they a Commonwealth?
This is well, it's the United Kingdom. It's a the UK is comprised of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and then there's Commonwealth. I think Canada's part of the Commonwealth. A lot of the islands in the Caribbean, Jamaica, and they, I don't know. I'm not sure about Australia, but they don't like the monarchy. They want to be away. They want independence. Like all these places want independence. And so when you spoke to people in Scotland, they would say they like the queen as a person, but again, they hated the monarchy and they want to break off if possible. The problem with breaking off is I found out from our tour guide that there's a nuclear sub base in Scotland, and it would be extremely difficult to move that base. So one of the reasons they can't do it is that base is there. So that's a big problem for the separatists. So I don't know. There's a lot of politics, a lot of history, and a lot of different things. And it's very interesting, when you talk to them and you get their take on things. So anyway, we're back to this tour and we're walking and we come across one of the government parliament buildings. And this is about 20 minutes later after we found out the queen passed. And the flag was already at half mast. In 5 minutes, it was probably at half mast. And we were walking, when we walked back, because we left the tour early, it was like freezing cold and raining. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I don't want to see any more cemeteries. The queen's dead. Leave me alone. So we go back, and the bus stops already had on the bus stops a picture of Queen Elizabeth, 1926 to, to 2022. This was in like 20 minutes. Like they called it Operation Unicorn, because unicorn, and the Scotland part was Operation Unicorn. The British part was Operation London Bridge. The Queen was very fond of Scotland. She was in Balmoral Castle, which is in the Highlands, and the schedule was to have her come from Balmoral to Holyrood Castle, which is in in Edinburgh. It's the end up. They have the Edinburgh castles on one side and the Holyrood castles on the other side of the Royal Mile. And then she would be brought to Holyrood for a day, and then she would be brought to Lion State at St. Giles Cathedral, which was a literal cross the street, not the street, it's the courtyard. The building we were in was once part of the Parliament building. It was one Parliament Square. So we're watching in real time what's going on at the church to prepare for this, which includes media being set up. We saw BBC trucks coming in, other media trucks. And then each day the police got more and more and more, and there were barricades everywhere, to the point where we couldn't even get into our flat. We had to go around through alleyways to get in because the front was cordoned off. So we were speaking to police.
Weren't there security in the alleyways also?
There's security everywhere, but we had proof that we were in this flat, and the apartment was in that building. We had to get in. Where are we going to go? So we have
your media pass from MalcolmPresents.com.
Yeah, I don't. When am I getting that, Malcolm? So anyway, it turned out that we had and the other thing that happened was there was an Aer Lingus, their whole system went down for an entire day, and the flights were canceled. People had to stay for 2-3 days extra, and you couldn't get in touch with them. Their website was down, their email was down, and calling, there was no answer. So we had a flight out to go from, because we had to go to Glasgow to get a flight to Dublin, and we were wondering if we were gonna actually have a plane. And there was no way to know unless you went to the airport. And then if we went, there was a good chance we'd have to leave. We didn't even know because no one was answering. But the police officer said, we were almost thinking of staying an extra day to see the procession down the Royal Mile. And the police officer said, you'll never get out. You'll never get out. There's going to be thousands of people. Yeah. You won't get out of the block. You won't get to a train. You won't get anywhere. So I would keep your plans, even though you don't know there's a plane at the airport. Just get out. Get the train to to Glasgow and go. So we did, because there was no way we'd get out. However, and I was sad that we missed the procession, because it's a piece of history. This is history. We were witnessing history in real time. So we go get the train, we go to Glasgow, and as we get out of the train, we look, there's a square in front of the train station. Lo and behold, Glasgow was having a proclamation ceremony right there, the same thing, with the bagpipes and the guys and the military and this. So we stayed to watch it, and the guy, this gentleman comes out. He was wearing the white wig and the thing, and he proclaims the Queen Elizabeth has passed, and King Charles is now, proclaimed to be the king of the UK. And there was a 2-minute ceremony, and then the people are going, he goes, "Long live King Charles," and everyone's screaming, "Long live King Charles," and then they all start going, "Hip hip hooray." I thought I was in a Marx Brothers movie. I didn't know. It was like, "Hooray for Captain Spaulding," So, but we got to witness history. We stayed there, we took pictures. I mean, how many times in a lifetime are you going to see a proclamation for the passing of the Queen of 70 years and the new King Charles? And I think he's going to have a lot of trouble. I think he's in for it. He's in for it.
Well, he's going to have a lot of problems, because even though people were against the monarchy,
Yeah.
a lot of people loved the
The
Queen.
Queen. Yes, people loved the Queen and they respected her. And she
Even
was.
though I remember during the period of Diane, and
Mhm.
everybody said how cold she was and how unfeeling she was and how separate she was from the people. Except when you die, everybody is, they only
Mhm.
remember the good things.
Right. Well, for the most part, I read an article. She loved New York. She was here a few times, but the first time she was in New York, I think it said something about they took her on the ferry or something. And when she came, the ferry turned, she saw the Statue of Liberty. And when it turned around, and she saw the view of the city, she literally went like this, because the boat picked up speed and she went, "Wee!" and they said she loved the city. She loved New York, and was always
But,
thrilled to be here.
but did she have a hot dog at Nathan's?
I probably think not. She had to go to the UN to speak. So on most of the time she was here, she was speaking somewhere or
But
doing some.
I hear she was very kind to the Holocaust people.
She was a very strong woman. I mean, she was one of the few
She had to
women,
be.
one of the few at a young age to be put in that position because of the king doing whatever he was doing that wasn't good. And she became queen.
Her uncle, Edward,
Edward was, yeah, Edward pulled
because
some.
she was never meant to be queen, because
You're
when
right.
Edward abdicated, I think,
She
George
was
VI
next. She
was
was
the
next in
papa.
line. Yeah, I don't know the exact thing, but she was
Yeah, it
the
was George
next.
V or VI, I forget.
I don't know. But now you have the rift between Harry and the rest of the family, to the point where they won't even let Harry wear a military uniform anymore, but they let Andrew wear it. He was the one who was screwing around with the young chicks. So he can wear a military outfit and Harry can't. Harry served Iraq twice. He was.
Yeah, but I think Harry sort of gave that up when
Yeah, he
I
gave it
don't know
up.
exactly what they say, but he became an unroyal.
Well, the people like Harry. The people in Scotland like Harry, because he basically gave them all the finger and said, enough's enough. So Harry's on their A list, but the rest of King Charles, good. I can't even imagine what's going to be going on with that.
Well, King Charles, I understand. I don't know the economic situation and the economy in
it's not
England. It
good.
must
It's
be
not
really
good.
down the tubes.
It's bad. It's very bad.
I
And
don't know
Brexit
what.
didn't help.
Yeah, I don't know. The Brexit was
Was a
right
Boris
disaster.
Johnson. It was a disaster. It's a disaster. So you go everywhere and you use the euro, which the dollar is stronger than the euro, but the pound is still a little more than the dollar. So in Scotland, in the UK, it's the pound, and then we went to Dublin, it's the EU. But I mean, it's the euro. So
But anyway, my dear, I hate to cut you off.
Don't cut me off yet. I have one more thing I have
Okay.
to tell you.
We'll go overtime.
Okay, little,
I
just
can
a
tell the
two,
sponsors, we won't have a
two-
hard break.
2 minutes. When we got, we finally, our plane to Dublin was late, but at least we got the plane. It was Aer Lingus. It was like a little turboprop plane. I'm like, great. We get there, we get an Uber to get to a hotel. My son was wondering why the hotels were solidly booked and were charging a fortune.
Why?
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
We're driving to this hotel, which would literally slept 7 hours and left. And it was, the TV show Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
Well, this was Schitt's Creek. Okay. We flew Air Dingus to Schitt's Creek. That's what we said. However, we're driving and all of a sudden I'm looking and I'm seeing people like walking for this was like 2 miles of people walking. Some of them had cowboy hats on, these Irish men with cowboy hats on. And we're trying to find out what's going on. So we finally asked the Uber driver what's going on. And he goes, well, Croquis, which is the football field there, which holds 85,000 people. There's a Garth Brooks concert and it just let out and they had 65,000 people there and all the 65,000 people are leaving. And of course, instead of driving a different way and direction, this guy drives into the worst possible traffic that you could imagine. It's worse than getting out of a Dodger game or a football game here or anything. And we were literally stuck 40 minutes in one place because nothing was moving. And all you saw were people walking and they're drunk people, regular people, they're wearing cowboy hats. And this was because of a Garth Brooks concert. So between,
I'm surprised they didn't cancel the concert because of the Queen.
no,
Because a lot of events were canceled.
this is
A lot of
this is
the
Ireland.
schools-
This is Ireland. Why would they cancel
Oh.
it for that? They don't care
That's
about the
true.
Queen.
And
Anyway, with that, think of Garth Brooks and
I
have
think
fun.
Garth Brooks, I'll think of Paula for the next show. We can talk
Right.
about, continue.
Right. Okay.
And rest up. I know you had a
Yeah, it's
trying
been-
time.
It was a crazy trip. It's one of the craziest trips logistically I ever took. So, but anyway, we had an adventure. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
you had an adventure and you were part of, and you have part of and
History.
you participated part of history.
Yeah, I have it on my phone. I can show
Yeah,
you all.
I want to see some of the shots.
We have some
You have to
really
send
cool
them.
shots. All right.
Anyway,
Take care,
wish Paula-
guys.
wish Paula the best for speedy recovery.
Well, Paula the best for speedy recovery. My Tush one will be fine. And we'll
And I'll
talk.
speak to you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.